You could say, hey, we're going to implement traction in EOS, and starting Monday, we're going to have our first implementation meeting, and we are doing it, ripping the Band-Aid off, right? It's sort of like saying, I'm going to lose 50 pounds, and, like, it's like a big task for the whole, you're really disrupting things. Okay, good morning. We're back.
Morning.
With another episode of Expandable. Today we're talking about planning, sort of like a planning framework for small businesses. We're starting the new year, 2026. Now, this could be applied at any time, any quarter, any time you want to sit down. Doesn't have to be at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, don't let, I got to wait till the beginning of the year to plan. Always have it on your mind.
Yeah, it's really more of like, what are some of the ways that we approach, or that we've seen people approach that have been successful planning, thinking frameworks and the way you approach it. So I'll go first and say that, my wife and I, every year for the last, 3 or 4 years, we've gotten on this rhythm of trying to go away for a weekend and actually look at the whole year and say, what is it that we're really trying to do this year personally? So that we can try to get as many of those things prioritized on our calendars, like actually on the calendar, which is tedious work, but we can look ahead and say, well, we've lived this life 1 year before. We know birthdays are coming, and
you can't get away from
all these things. So let's just go ahead and plan for all these sort of mundane things that are going to happen. And we really, a lot of times we'll start with the end of the year, start with Christmas and holidays and say, all right, are we going to go away? Are we going to, where are we spending this with people? Like, let's try to get ahead of this so that it also sort of manages communication with
the household too.
With the household, with our household, but with our extended family. So we can say, whenever the appropriate time comes up, hey, we're planning on doing this, so you can make your plans. There's a lot of things that it helps. But we'll start with the end of the year and kind of work backwards and look by quarter. We have teenagers, so one's off to college, so we're planning for different things of meeting with her, or, another one's about to go to college and those kind of things. So looking at all of those different pieces, and then we'll step back, and mostly I will look at our business and say.
You still use an actual calendar?
No, I use Google. But but for sure. Oh yeah, I can't.
We'll have a calendar at home too. Sometimes here and there to have.
Have you seen Jesse Itzler's big ass calendar?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I like that concept a lot. Yeah. I mean, essentially what he's doing is how we approach it, because our Google calendar will look sort of like that. It's just that his is visual, which I'm visual too, and I love the idea of having that on my wall. I just don't have the wall space for it, so I just stick with my current setup. But that's my approach: is start with personal. Because a lot of times we end up putting our personal stuff last, and we don't prioritize the things that really matter to us. And now we're running around at the end of the, last hour of a, band recital, or, whatever the thing may be. When if we would have just taken a few minutes and looked ahead, we could have, prioritized these type of things.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So that's what we do. We start there, and then we look back at, I guess inside of that, we will look back at the last year and say, what worked? Like, what was a good thing? What are the wins that we had? What can we draw from last year, both personally and work, but now shifting to small businesses specifically. What did we do well? Did we build new systems, or, do we need to build systems in another place because those work really well? Did we hire someone that worked out really well? Why did it work out? It's looking at your wins and not forgetting them. First of all, I mean, that's a practice I'm actually, over the last maybe year or so, I've started occasionally writing down my wins, as small as they may be. And this year I'm trying to make it more of a practice to, if not daily, weekly, look back and say, all right, what are the things that happened this week? Because it's so easy to get to the end of the week and say, I still feel like I am behind. I am not where I want to be. Well, here comes the next week.
And I always struggle with the plan too, because a plan is a silly guess sometimes. Mm-hmm. Now, plan though is you have intent. You have intent to go to that direction, but it's okay because you never know what's going to happen in between then. So,
but at least having it out there in front of you.
Then you've got to have that.
There's not an unknown there. So now you don't have this like gray matter floating around, in addition to the things that are happening to you every day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, what worked, what can we double down on, which area needs the most attention, right? So that's then looking at priorities and saying, for where you are in the stage of growth, what do you need to, like, I'm working with a client right now. They're working on systems purely because they've got contracts in place. Like the front end of the pipeline is doing really well, which is great, but they need to fortify the internal system so that as they hire and fire, consistency of work stays the same, and they can utilize that whole, their whole company and the structure to grow because they can acquire companies now and deploy that system, things like that. It depends on where you are and where
you mentioned something earlier too. You had mentioned, looking about successes, and, in my field in banking, there's a lot of little successes, but success is kind of, you're right. You need to go back and look at them because you forget about them, because there's things that when things work, they're not on top of mind too. Yeah. And so you forget about the things, at least mine is what is sitting there and working, and whether that has to do with even employees. Yeah. Employees that, they didn't have your attention because
it's working.
They were doing everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
They didn't need my attention.
Yeah.
The last thing they needed, I was going to slow them down.
Yeah.
So, that was a big thing for me to go back to, okay, what was unexpected, that is working that really need to go down that I didn't pay attention to.
Yep.
Because there are a lot of those that surprise you.
Yeah. I think if we were to drill down on that for a minute, if you were to go to one of those people that you're now aware of, well, I haven't heard from this person really all year in any negative way because they're owning their position. Yeah. They are totally crushing it. If you go to that person and say, we want to hire, everything you're doing is great. We want to hire more people like you. What is it that you bring to work every day that we can replicate? What is it that makes you unique and special about your work? And they're going to be like, well, I don't, most people will be like humble about it and say, I don't really see that I'm doing anything special. Well, take me through your day. Like, take me through like how you approach your work. And you're going to pick up a few things that they're going to say, well, whenever I get an email, I usually try to respond right away, or, whatever practice that they're doing, you're going to pick it up and say, okay, this needs to be part of our like tenets of how we run our company. And actually that's that was the next one I was going to mention is, where can you improve your communication? Like, I think organizations, this is sort of my natural DNA, I'm wired
communication has changed too. And
that's right.
And even though communication hasn't changed, technology, of course, to me, has improved in areas to where there's areas where you need less communication and then more. So you've got to change your communication. It's not that it's bad or good, but I think it's always evolving how you're communicating.
Yes. And you can see that with, in the last decade, you have messaging platforms like Slack, where you have this asynchronous work going on, and it's gotten to a tipping point where it's actually unproductive.
They spend too much time in that world. Yes.
Because now I can ping you and you have to respond right away kind of culture, which is not good because you can never get into any real work and get it finished.
No. And I've seen that across the board with people that just, I have meetings.
So it's always looking at it and saying, okay, it's time for us to implement a platform like Slack, and we're going to test it and, model it. And if we get to a point where it's starting to, like not return results, now we have to look at how are we going to pull that back to put boundaries around it so people can utilize it still productively.
Well, no matter how good individual softwares are, you could have 10 of the best ones that do their function best, but people only have so much knowledge of being experts in a couple
to learn it, to use softwares. It, to make it part of their
to be efficient. Yeah. So you start adding on too much. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And it goes to the type of work you're doing. If you have a warehouse and you have office employees and they need to communicate in some way, there's some that are going to get it right. And that's what you want to model.
Yeah.
There's some that are not, and you don't want to model that. Balls getting dropped, frustrated employees. Of course, we looked at the positive side. What are the things that are happening that need to be addressed? And I think it's sort of a similar motion. You talk to the employee and said, what are you doing that's great? Talk to the employees to say, what is happening here? How is this why are we dropping the ball here? We got an order and it took 48 hours for the new customer to get a response from this department. That's not a good thing. And we're seeing that as the order rate is, or after they order that is, they call it, it's not churn, it's melt. it's melting off, and we're not really actually bringing on the number of people that we sold. So we've invested all this time in marketing and selling, and now we're losing them right here. Let's hone in on this and figure out why are we dropping the ball here. Things like that. I mean, I think looking at your processes, looking at your teams, how they communicate, the flow, that's going to reveal so much.
Yes.
And you can just start with the frustrations, and then you'll find it really quickly, in the processes. That's going to lead very easily to auditing departments, interviewing department heads. We talked about that. Obviously, examining cash flow, right? We've talked about this on multiple episodes, but cash flow is critical.
That's a constant.
What can you get rid of? I think we talked about this before.
Yeah, and that is a great thing because, every business, the longer you've been in longevity, you've gone through, you've had multiple people in positions and things, and everybody has added work that was benefited them, and you've got to go back, and there's always stuff to shed when you have, especially a mature company.
Yes, because you pick up new softwares and, redundancies.
Things that worked a few years ago no longer have value, and you just,
It's this idea of like, if we deleted everything, what would we feel?
Well, let's face it, majority of software never gets updated from when you first get it.
Yes.
That's it.
The software that lives on your computer, yes.
Yeah, but like any type of custom, or you go out and you get this, don't bet that it's going to improve whenever it is, because the likelihood of you getting,
it's only going to degrade.
Correct. Because what happens is major software companies, they resell to private equity, and then it just gets crapped out. So if you don't like it right from the beginning, I'm going to the point. If it's not doing the function that I want right now, it's
never going to do it.
Yeah. You better have track, or I better be in control of that, development.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I like this idea of like just looking at everything and said, if we deleted this, would it be painful? And you can ask your department head, manager, whoever is the one, but there's so many times you'll find redundancies, and these little, $50 a month subscriptions you have, they add up.
Yeah, they do.
You'll find that you have.
And $1 saved is worth more than
for sure
$1 earned.
Inertia.
Yep.
Economic inertia. The last one I have here is looking at the front end. Like, you've looked at your back end processes and workflows, look on the front end for sales, new business. What new inroads can you have or build to your target audience, or on-ramps to your services?
That's really important in this day and age, because people's, I think, habits are really changing.
Yeah.
And as they're kind of laying in now, I think it'll be consistent for a little while as they get focused in. So I think you really should focus in on what your product's actually doing, the way people's buying habits are now, and forget about the way they have been.
Yes. The gold in all of this, I think, is if you were to take these ways of thinking, this approach, and you were to apply it on a more frequent basis than annually, and let's just say quarterly, and you said, okay, we're all going to get together, all meaning your executive team or, whomever is running the company in a major capacity, and we're going to answer these questions, and I want you guys to bring me the answers. So I'm going to go to sales and marketing and say, what are some new ways that we can get in front of people, and put people onto our new services? And I want you to come back with some ideas. And then you go to your, head of whatever and say, what's working, what's not working. I want you to basically tell me the answers that you think, instead of you having to do the full audit. If you started that, it's going to reveal so much more frequently, so you can grow so much faster.
Give me a lot of work to do.
But that's exactly, I was hoping you'd say that, because if you did that on, let's just say for a year, with the current workforce that you have, then it's sort of like an EOS implementation, but an indirect implementation, where you start that and it becomes the norm of like, okay, this is how we operate as a company. Now you can task people to say, okay, this way of thinking is how I would expect for you to operate on a daily basis. I want you to always be thinking about new inroads, new ways to turn people onto our service. I want you to always see frustrations and try to come up with solutions.
Yeah.
That mentality is an ownership mentality. And if you can get all of your people in your company ultimately thinking like that on their own, now you have less need for these drawdowns once a year to go deep and try to, solve these problems, you have a real-time workforce that's working on their role and the solutions in their role on a daily basis. You look like you have a question.
No, I'm just thinking about the different aspects and how I can go through that throughout different levels.
Yeah.
And, in different pours. So,
well, that's why I think you slow, what is
because
it?
every
Slow
organization, has its own difference.
Yep.
And the way you approach everything, you'll all have the same end goal is having everybody take ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And but there's different ways to go about it.
There is, because you could say, hey, we're going to implement traction in EOS, and starting Monday, we're going to have our first implementation meeting, and we are doing it. We're ripping the Band-Aid off, right? It's sort of like saying, I'm going to lose 50 pounds, and, it's like a big task for the whole, you're really disrupting things for yourself too, because you're committing
and in
to
some
that.
crews, I think and
it works sometimes.
You implemented these things and without necessarily like, hey, I'm having this huge grand, like, here's what you're doing. You just start doing it.
Yep.
And then you say, here's what we've done, and here's the success, and here's where we're going.
Correct. And then you have the majority of people slower, but they eventually will stick around and they get more jazzed about where it's going. I love the military adage of slow is smooth, smooth is fast, because it just makes so much sense to me. And I think the indirect EOS is like what I was just sort of describing here. It's start slow, give people a chance to become aware of what is happening, get involved, then make it more frequent, and then say, hey, this is all really working out well. Why don't we do this on a more frequent basis? And all you're doing is answering. You could even go to EOS, go to Traction, pull out the major questions, which are going to be sort of similar to this, and say, let's take these major questions, apply them to your role. And then, once you get there, and now you have essentially an indirect system, but is sort of custom to the culture of people you already have. It's not perfect. EOS is not perfect. But I think that, to me, especially for small companies, can work really well.
Yeah, well, work on that. And then we need to have an episode at the end of the year to come back.
Yeah, that'd be
with
cool.
Some of these things.
That'd be cool. Yeah. All right, great. On to the next one.